Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping right into something pretty dramatic unfolding at, well, one of Formula One's really iconic teams, Alpine. It's a situation, let's be honest, that's got everything, leadership changes, big struggles on the track, and a fascinating power play that could seriously change their whole future in F1.
Absolutely. It's got layers upon layers.
Right. So our mission today really is to cut through all the noise. We want to distill what's actually happening around the upcoming departure of the Renault Group CEO, Luca de Meo. And, what that means for the Alpine F1 team's pretty uncertain future, especially with the, shall we say, controversial figure of Flavio Briatore now heavily involved. We're digging into some great analysis, particularly from the race, to give you, our listeners, a shortcut to understanding what's really going on.
It's a crucial moment for them.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. You've got a key architect of the whole Alpine F1 project stepping down soon. That leaves a massive question mark hanging over the team, doesn't it?
It really does. And what's so interesting here, I think, is how Luca de Meo, the outgoing Renault CEO, he's stepping down July 2025. How one leader can have such different results across different parts of a huge company.
Yeah, explain that a bit, because for Renault as a whole, his time has been seen as a big success, right?
Oh, definitely. For the wider Renault group, he's credited with a really successful tenure.
Yeah.
I mean, genuinely transforming their fortunes. He came in, steadied the ship, built a healthier foundation. They've got an impressive product range now. Growth is back on track. He even said himself something like, the results speak for themselves. They are the best in our history. Which, for the car company, is arguably true.
Okay, so big picture success. But his F1 vision, that was a core part of his strategy too, wasn't it? The whole Alpine rebrand.
Exactly. He kicked off this massive overhaul. He called it a revolution, actually. Part of that was pushing new Alpine road car models, trying to build that brand. And to do that, he merged Renault Sport with Alpine, created a whole new business unit. And yeah, rebranding the F1 team as Alpine was central to that strategy.
Makes sense from a corporate perspective. Yeah. Elevate the brand, use F1 as the halo. But the F1 results haven't exactly matched the corporate turnaround, have they?
No, not at all. That's the stark contrast. Despite the success elsewhere, de Meo's time overseeing F1, well, it's been a pretty poor chapter in Renault's F1 history, frankly. The team's just been inconsistent, chaotic at times in terms of management, and yeah, so far, very disappointing on track.
Inconsistent, chaotic.
Those words definitely ring true.
It's a real puzzle. How can the same leadership driving success in one area oversee such struggles in another very public part of the business?
And then here's where it gets even more complicated and controversial. Luca de Meo brought back a very familiar and very contentious figure.
Yes. Flavio Briatore, introduced last June as de Meo's executive advisor. That was the title.
Just advisor seemed like more than that almost immediately. Well, exactly. Everyone kind of understood it meant bringing the ex-Benetton and Renault F1 boss, the guy involved in Kremit-gate, back into the fold. His third stint, really, running the team in some capacity. And his actual power became very clear very quickly.
Yeah, especially, I guess, when Oliver Oakes, the team principal they'd hired after Briatore came on board, suddenly resigned back in May.
Precisely. Oakes leaves, citing personal reasons, but the timing. And Briatore immediately steps up, basically assumes all the team principal duties, just without the official title. It told you who was really calling the shots.
So the official team principal didn't have the real power.
Seems that way. The report suggests there was conflict over Oakes' limited responsibility, that de Meo and Briatore were the ones actually making the key decisions. Oakes was maybe more operational, but without the final say.
And Briatore brings a certain style, doesn't he? People talk about his old school tactics.
Tactics from a, let's say, very different era of F1, decades ago. Which immediately makes you ask, is that approach still right for F1 today? It's changed so much.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And how do those tactics play out? Especially when it comes to the drivers, because that seems to be where things have gotten really messy.
Oh, absolutely. The driver situation at Alpine. It's become a bit of a case study in mismanagement, unfortunately. It raises serious questions about how they handle their most valuable assets.
You think back to Oscar Piastri first, right? That was, wow.
A total disaster. Previous management, under de Meo's watch, let's not forget, completely fumbled it. Piastri just walks away, jump ship to McLaren, and now look at him, leading the World Championship at times this year. A huge talent just gone.
An enormous loss.
Yes.
And you'd think they'd learn, but the junior program still seems confused.
Well, that's the thing. It looked like they had learned. They promoted Jack Doohan, their own academy driver, gave him a race seat for 2025, even debuted him early in 2024. Okay, progress. But then reports suggest Briatore ordered the signing of Franco Colapinto, a junior from another team, over the winter. And the result, Doohan gets dropped after just 6 races, their own guy. It just looks chaotic.
It's just baffling from the outside,
Yeah.
like musical chairs. So now Colapinto's in the car.
Yeah, and he's yet to really, set the world alight. His place seems far from secure, frankly. Meanwhile, Doohan is still technically on Alpine's books. They've also got Paul Aron, another F2 winner, kind of waiting in the wings, and Pierre Gasly is confirmed for next year. So they genuinely seem unsure who'll be driving alongside Gasly for the rest of this year, let alone for the big rule changes in 2026. It's not ideal.
Not ideal is an understatement. Utter confusion seems more like it.
And that kind of instability, it just ripples through the whole team, doesn't it? Affects morale, planning, everything.
So, okay, we've got the high-level corporate stuff, MEO'S departure, Briatore's return, the driver chaos. But what about the actual car, the on-track performance? What's the story there?
Well, that's the bottom line, isn't it? And unfortunately, the trend there has also been downwards. Alpine has basically gone backwards gradually since they peaked in 2022.
They did have that one win, though, didn't they? Ocon in Hungary.
They did, yes. Esteban Ocon's win in Hungary 2021. It was Enstone's first win since Renault came back as a works team in 2016. A bit fortunate, perhaps, with the circumstances of that race, but still, a win. But overall, the last few years, they've just been plagued by controversy, instability, lots of internal storms. It can't have been easy.
And so much leadership change, too. You mentioned Oaks, but before him.
Oh, it's been a revolving door. DeMeo kept rejigging things. You had Cyril Abitdale, then Marcin Budkowski, then Otmar Safnauer, then Bruno Famin briefly, then Oaks. Plus Laurent Rossi's time as CEO, which was reportedly quite divisive too. It's just constant churn. How do you build anything long-term like that?
They probably don't. And the stats back that up.
Pretty much, yeah. Performance-wise, the team is almost in the same place it was during Renault's really poor first year back in 2016. The average championship position is almost identical, like 6.2 now compared to 5.8 back then. Progression has just stalled. They seem stuck in the midfield, unable to break out.
And this year, 2024, feels particularly bad.
It does. They were, last in the championship for a while, only 11 points from the first 10 races or so. Positionally, it's worse than before. And the problem is, other teams, their rivals, are getting better, which just highlights the limitations of the Alpine package even more.
What are those limitations specifically? What's wrong with the car?
Well, the analysis points to a few key things. Really poor traction out of corners is a big one. The ride quality is apparently awful, maybe even worse than last year. That Monaco weekend was telling they were the only team slower than their own 2024 time there. That suggests a fundamental issue with how the car handles bumps and curbs.
Ouch. And the engine. Renault engines used to be feared, but now...
Now, not so much. It's still lacking power compared to the benchmark, and apparently quite poor on energy recovery, which is critical in this hybrid era. That makes the whole package weak on power-sensitive tracks. So even if they qualify okay sometimes, race day can be a struggle. There's a danger, too, that they blame everything on the engine when, there are clearly issues with the chassis as well.
Sounds like a lot of problems to fix.
It is. Last year, they got that surprise double podium in Brazil in the wet, which sort of saved their season. It boosted them from maybe 8th to 6th in the constructors. But 2025, it looks like it might need an even bigger miracle to turn things around significantly.
Which brings us back to the bigger picture. Why is a team with this history, this manufacturer backing, struggling so much? Some of these top-level decisions, they almost seem like they're preparing for something else.
That's where the engine decision really comes into focus. Last year, DeMeo, apparently with Briatore involved in the discussions, gave the green light to scrap the Alpine F1 engine program entirely.
Scrap it completely. Wow.
Yep. So from the end of 2025, they stop being a works team, developing their own power unit, and they become a customer team using Mercedes engines.
Okay, getting a Mercedes engine is probably an upgrade performance-wise, given their struggles.
It probably will be a net gain on track, yes, but only because their own engine division has underperformed pretty much since these turbo hybrid engines came in back in 2014. So it's also a massive admission of failure, isn't it? A failure spanning over a decade.
And does that decision make the team easier to sell?
Well, that's the widespread feeling in the F1 paddock, that DeMeo's push to axe the engine program was, at least partly, about making the team a simpler, less complex asset, easier to offload. Becoming a customer makes the whole operation cheaper, less investment needed, easier to justify maybe. But nobody really bought the argument that this was purely about long-term F1 commitment. It felt more like preparation.
Because even a struggling F1 team is worth a lot of money these days.
Exactly. Team values have skyrocketed. Renault still owns a major asset. Here they own 76%, having sold off 24% to investors back in 2023. So the idea of a sale, it's not just chatter. It's a real possibility.
So connecting the dots. DeMeo leaving raises two huge questions for Alpine F1 then.
Obvious ones, really. First, will the Renault board, or the new CEO coming in, look at the team's high value versus its low performance and think maybe now's the time to cash in, sell another stake, sell a majority, maybe even sell the whole thing? It must be tempting.
And the second question revolves around Briatore.
Yes. What happens to him? He wasn't hired by Renault officially or by the Alpine team structure. He was brought in by DeMeo specifically to advise him. It was a personal arrangement almost.
A very well-paid arrangement, according to reports.
Apparently so. A significant percentage of commercial deals he brought in, plus a hefty salary. But the key point is he's not an employee in the normal sense. He was there because of DeMeo.
So with DeMeo going,
Yeah.
his position looks shaky, despite what he says.
It has to, doesn't it? I mean, there's no real sign of progress, no tangible improvement in any key area since he arrived. He told Reuters that DeMeo leaving changes nothing for him and the team, but that feels, well, a bit dismissive of the reality, maybe. Short term, yeah, probably business as usual. But for how long? How long does he stay in charge in this strange, unofficial capacity?
And other lingering questions, too, like, will DeMeo make any final big calls before he leaves? Appoint a permanent team principal to replace Oaks, perhaps, signed off by Briatore?
That's possible. And crucially, what will the new Renault Group CEO think about F1, about the Alpine team, about who's running it? Will they share DeMeo's vision or Briatore's influence?
These aren't small questions, are they?
Not at all. It's genuinely no exaggeration to say this latest leadership change could fundamentally alter the future of Renault's presence in Formula One. It's a critical moment.
Wow. What a complex and, frankly, uncertain situation for Alpine. So, just to recap the key things for you listening. You've got the departure of a powerful CEO, LUCA DeMeo, whose legacy is strong corporately, but much more mixed in F1. You have the really uncertain influence of a controversial figure like FLAVIO Briatore hanging over everything. And you've got a team that's struggling badly on the track, but paradoxically holds significant financial value right now.
A real crossroads for the team.
Definitely. And maybe a final thought for you to consider. In this incredibly high-stakes world of Formula One, where does the real power actually sit? Is it in the boardrooms, making those big financial calls and strategic moves? Or is it down in the garages with the engineers, mechanics trying desperately to find that extra tenth of a second from the car? And maybe more pointedly for Alpine, how long can that gap, that disconnect between the corporate side and the actual on-track performance really continue for such a visible brand?
It's a fundamental question for any major manufacturer involved in F1, and Alpine seems to be right in the thick of that dilemma right now. It'd be fascinating to watch how it plays out.
Absolutely. There's always so much more going on behind the scenes in Formula One, and we definitely encourage you to keep digging deeper. Hopefully this deep dive has helped you get a clearer picture of the critical situation at Alpine.